For the past couple of years, the COVID-19 pandemic really did its damage, as the rent in cities across the US has been exploding faster than ever. Tenants were paying outrageous prices just to keep a roof over their heads. But get this, despite all that growth, the housing boom is now collapsing faster than anyone expected, because the real story isn't rising rents. It's landlords losing control, luxury towers sitting empty, and tenants finally taking back power in 2025. This is real estate acumen, and today we're counting down the top 10 US cities where rent is crushing and landlords are broke in 2025. Stick around until number 1. What's happening there could reshape the rental market for years. Starting at number 10, Austin. Austin's meteoric rise as America's tech hotspot is the kind of story that seemed unstoppable until 2025. Between 2020 and 2023, the city became the crown jewel of tech migration, attracting remote workers, venture capital, and billion-dollar startups fleeing California. Downtown cranes dominated the skyline. Luxury towers like the Independent and 70 Rainey sprouted almost overnight, and landlords raised rents aggressively, some by as much as 30% year-over-year in 2022 alone. At the time, it felt like every tech worker who could pay was willing to do so, and for landlords, it was a golden era. In 2025, Austin's rent boom has turned into a full-blown correction. Average rents are down 14% year-over-year, marking the steepest decline in the Sunbelt. Thousands of brand-new apartments built during the frenzy now sit empty, their rooftop pools echoing with silence. Landlords are offering desperate incentives: 3 months free rent, waived deposits, and even concert tickets in some developments. Things that were unthinkable just 2 years prior. For example, a one-bedroom in East Austin that rented for $2.200 in 2023 can now be secured for $1.800 with perks. Austin's collapse isn't just a local hiccup. It's a warning shot for the entire Sunbelt. Developers over-leveraged, expecting endless growth, while tech layoffs from giants like Meta, Oracle, and Tesla gutted the high-income renter base. This demonstrates a critical principle. When growth is built on speculation rather than sustainable demand, the market will eventually correct, often brutally. For tenants, it's a rare win. The city that became unaffordable overnight is finally giving power back to the people who keep it alive. But for investors and landlords, the lesson is expensive, fast, and unavoidable. That's a dramatic shift, but Austin's story is just one piece of a nationwide puzzle. If you think empty rooftops are shocking, wait until we get to Miami, where luxury towers are literally giving away cash to fill apartments. The scale of this rental collapse is bigger than most Americans realize. 9. Miami. Miami's rental boom between 2020 and 2022 wasn't just big, it was blinding. Rents in areas like Brickell, downtown, and Miami Beach surged over 60% in just 2 years, fueled by a perfect storm: pandemic migration, crypto wealth, and global investors chasing sun, status, and tax benefits. Luxury towers with ocean views became symbols of excess, and locals were often priced out overnight. For a moment, it seemed like Miami had rewritten the rules of the rental market. But in 2025, the glitter is fading. Average rents have fallen 11% year-over-year, and vacancies are climbing across the city. Landlords are now competing fiercely for tenants, offering incentives that range from waived deposits and free parking to $2,000 gift cards just to fill units. The overconfidence of the boom years collided with harsh realities. Insurance premiums have tripled, HOA fees have skyrocketed due to stricter post-collapse building regulations, and tourism-driven short-term rentals are no longer a guaranteed cash flow. Some condos once valued at $900,000 are now selling for $700,000 or remaining unsold entirely. Miami's collapse isn't just about empty apartments. It's about unsustainable growth and the fragility of markets fueled by hype. Investors who assumed perpetual demand are hemorrhaging cash, and the exodus of foreign buyers exposes how dependent Miami had become on global money. For everyday renters, it's a rare opportunity to secure premium units at lower costs. But the bigger story is systemic. Miami illustrates that even the most glamorous, high-demand cities are not immune to corrections when supply overshoots demand and costs rise faster than incomes. That's a striking reversal, but Miami is just the beginning. If you think losing tenants in a sunny paradise is shocking, wait until we hit Atlanta, where affordability and overbuilding are creating a completely different kind of crisis in the South. The scale of this US rental collapse is spreading faster than most experts predicted. At 8, Atlanta. Atlanta was once hailed as the South's safe bet for growth. Between 2021 and 2024, over 50,000 new apartment units hit the market as developers race to meet a surge of migration from both coasts. With a booming job market, affordable housing compared to coastal cities, and major corporations relocating offices, the city seemed unstoppable. High-rise apartments in Midtown and Sandy Springs were leasing within days, and landlords believed the demand would never slow. But 2025 tells a very different story. Rents are now down 9% year over year, and vacancies are climbing in both the urban core and suburban markets. Landlords are offering 3 months of free rent, free parking, and waived security deposits just to attract tenants. Even single-family rentals in suburbs like Cobb, Gwinnett, and Henry County are sitting empty, with short-term investors slashing prices to stop financial bleeding. Here's the lesson for renters and investors alike. The problem wasn't just oversupply. It was the type of supply. Developers built luxury units, assuming renters would always pay top dollar, ignoring wage stagnation, inflation, and student debt pressures. Millennials and Gen Z, unable or unwilling to keep up with rising costs, are doubling up, moving back home, or leaving the city entirely. For investors, it's a harsh reminder that market hype without demographic reality is a recipe for disaster. Atlanta's boom turned slow suffocation, and now landlords are scrambling to compete for a shrinking pool of tenants. Why it matters in the bigger picture. Atlanta's collapse signals that the Sun Belt's bulletproof housing narrative is faltering. This isn't a temporary blip, it's a structural correction that mirrors trends in other overbuilt cities. Anyone betting on perpetual growth without accounting for affordability or demographic shifts is at risk of losing big. That's Atlanta, a city built for expansion now facing contraction. But the crisis isn't limited to the South. Up next is Las Vegas, a city of spectacle and speculation, where the gambling mindset has left landlords in a very different kind of financial gamble. You won't believe the numbers. 7. Las Vegas. Las Vegas has always been a city of extremes, big wins, big losses, and bigger risks. Between 2020 and 2023, the city saw a massive influx of residents from California, chasing lower costs and new opportunities. Investors snatched up homes, and short-term rentals exploded, fueled by tourism rebounds and pandemic-era relocations. Developers assumed the good times would last forever, building thousands of new units in Henderson, Summerlin, and the heart of the Strip. But 2025 is rewriting the narrative. Rents are down nearly 10% since 2023, and vacancy rates have doubled in key residential areas. Apartment complexes that once boasted waiting lists now sit half-empty. Landlords are offering incentives ranging from free months of rent to prepaid utilities, and some are even throwing in event tickets or luxury perks just to lure tenants. The lesson here is clear. Las Vegas isn't just dealing with oversupply, it's dealing with a misalignment between supply and demand. Tourism, which drives much of the local economy, hasn't fully recovered. Conventions are smaller, casino hiring is down, and tipping isn't what it used to be. Meanwhile, thousands of Airbnbs, previously reserved for weekend tourists, have flooded the long-term rental market, further suppressing rents. Investors who bought at pandemic peaks are underwater, with some forced to sell below purchase price to avoid mounting losses. Why it matters in the bigger picture. Las Vegas illustrates a fundamental principle. Speculation without sustainability is a fragile strategy. Even a city built on luck and risk cannot defy economic reality. Overbuilding and over-leveraging can turn a boom city into a cautionary tale almost overnight, and the ripple effects can extend far beyond the Strip. That's Las Vegas, a city of glitz now facing gritty financial realities. But the Sun Belt isn't done with surprises. Next, we head to Phoenix, Arizona, where the desert boom is rapidly cooling, and landlords are learning that expansion without balance can be catastrophic. And at number 6, Phoenix. Phoenix was the blazing heart of the Sun Belt boom. Between 2021 and 2023, thousands of families from California and the Midwest flocked to the Valley of the Sun, driving record rent hikes and fueling a massive construction surge. Entire new suburbs in Chandler, Glendale, and Mesa sprouted seemingly overnight, and developers raced to build high-end apartments and luxury communities, confident that demand would never waver. But 2025 has brought a harsh reality check. More than 30,000 new units hit the market in just 12 months, and demand hasn't kept pace. Average rents have plunged 12% year over year, forcing landlords to offer unprecedented perks: free months of rent, furnished move-ins, prepaid utilities to attract tenants. Wait lists that once stretched for months now resemble ghost towns, with units lingering unoccupied for weeks. Here's how this matters to renters and investors. For landlords and investors who purchased luxury new builds at pandemic peaks, many are now underwater, owing more than their properties are worth. The over-leveraged investors are scrambling to stay afloat, while renters suddenly find themselves with the upper hand, negotiating better deals in a market that just months ago seemed untouchable. Framing the bigger picture, Phoenix exemplifies the danger of unchecked growth. Booming migration and high-interest borrowing fueled a citywide construction frenzy that wasn't sustainable. The fallout is a stark reminder that housing markets, no matter how hot, cannot expand infinitely without balance. This isn't just a correction, it's a market-wide reset, showing what happens when optimism outruns reality. That's Phoenix, a desert boomtown now learning the hard way that growth has limits. But if you think this is the Sunbelt's toughest lesson, wait until you see Dallas, Texas, where the math is even scarier for landlords and investors alike. At number 5, Dallas. For years, Dallas seemed untouchable. Corporate relocations poured in, young professionals flocked to uptown, and suburban sprawl appeared limitless. Between 2021 and 2024, developers added tens of thousands of new apartment units across Uptown, Plano, Frisco, and Richardson, betting on never-ending demand. Investors called it the economic capital of Texas, confident rents would always rise. But 2025 has flipped the script. Average rents in key neighborhoods have dropped 10%, with Class A vacancies hitting decade highs. Luxury towers gleam, but inside, landlords are panicking. Incentives like covered parking, free utilities, and rent credits are back, something that seemed unthinkable just 2 years ago. The city's rapid expansion, fueled by high-interest loans and overconfidence, collided with a reality check. Renters are tightening wallets, interest rates remain sky-high, and disposable income can't keep up with soaring rents. Investors and landlords who once relied on endless cash flow are now scrambling. Some are forced to slash rents, delay maintenance, or offer creative perks just to retain tenants. For residents, this shift is an opportunity. Renters can negotiate better terms, secure upgrades, and even move into neighborhoods that were previously out of reach. Dallas illustrates a critical lesson in the 2025 U.S. housing story. Even in booming economies, oversupply plus financial overreach creates vulnerability. Developers overbuilt, assuming endless migration and spending power. When demand slowed, the imbalance exposed the fragility beneath the city's gleaming skyline. This isn't just about falling rents. It's a cautionary tale for markets across the Sunbelt and beyond. Dallas's crash is significant, but if you think overbuilding is the only culprit, wait until you see Boise, Idaho, where a pandemic-fueled frenzy turned a quiet mountain city into the poster child for housing collapse. 4. Boise. Boise was the pandemic's golden child. In 2020 and 2021, remote workers fleeing San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland flooded the city, bringing bidding wars, record-high offers, and skyrocketing rents. Home prices doubled in some neighborhoods, and apartment complexes filled faster than developers could build. The city's charm, low cost of living, and scenic surroundings made it a magnet for families and tech workers seeking escape from high-cost coastal cities. But by 2025, the bubble burst. Rents are down 13% year over year, and vacancy rates are climbing faster than anywhere else in the Mountain West. Downtown apartments that once leased in days now sit empty for months. Hundreds of high-end units built during the boom are now struggling to find tenants. Developers who overleveraged are forced to offer free months, upgrades, or discounted rates, yet units linger unsold or unleased. Suburbs like Meridian, Nampa, and Eagle are feeling the same sting, with projects paused mid-construction and investor confidence waning. For renters, this is a unique window of opportunity. Affordable leases, waived deposits, and perks like free utilities or upgraded amenities are now common. For investors or potential landlords, Boise's story is a warning. Rapid population influx can drive demand, but oversupply and short-term speculation turn profits into losses fast. If you're buying, timing and realistic projections matter more than hype. Boise fits into the national puzzle as a symbol of the pandemic-fueled migration collapse. Unlike large metros with diversified economies, smaller cities like Boise were disproportionately affected by sudden population swings. The city's experience underscores a universal lesson in 2025. Housing markets can swing from explosive growth to sharp contraction in just a few years, especially when development outpaces sustainable demand. Boise's crash is dramatic, but if you think a small city meltdown is contained, just wait until Seattle's story, where tech layoffs and overbuilt luxury towers are shaking the foundation of an entire coastal powerhouse. At 3. Seattle. Seattle was the poster child of tech-fueled growth. From 2015 through 2023, the city attracted waves of high-income workers from Amazon, Microsoft, and countless startups, driving rents sky high and filling downtown apartments within days. Neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, South Lake Union, and Belltown became synonymous with luxury living, tech money, and endless crane-filled skylines. At its peak, some rents climbed over $3.5 for a one-bedroom apartment, and multi-million-dollar condos traded hands like hot commodities. But by 2025, the tide has turned. Rents have dropped 10% and vacancies have surged. Tech layoffs, the collapse of numerous startups, and the permanent shift to remote work have gutted the high-income renter base. Apartments that once required long waiting lists now offer cash bonuses, free rent for months, and other perks just to fill units. Even the suburbs, Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland, are seeing softened demand, with tenants renegotiating leases or leaving for more affordable states. For renters, Seattle now presents opportunities previously unimaginable. Flexible leases, discounted rents, and move-in incentives are available in neighborhoods that were once out of reach for the average professional. For investors, Seattle is a stark warning. Relying solely on tech-driven growth can be risky, as layoffs and market corrections can rapidly erode tenant demand. Understanding local employment trends, company expansions, and population migration patterns is now critical for anyone entering the market. Seattle's shift matters because it represents the broader trend of tech-dependent cities hitting a ceiling. Unlike smaller markets, the stakes here are higher. Entire urban economies, luxury developments, and cultural hubs are affected. It shows that even the most seemingly bulletproof housing markets can falter when demand is tied too tightly to a single industry, forcing landlords and developers to rethink strategy and pricing. Seattle's tech-driven collapse is eye-opening. But if you think this is isolated, just wait until we dive into San Francisco, the city that not only set the price floor for America's housing market, but is now showing how far the top can really fall. And at 2, San Francisco. San Francisco, once the crown jewel of American innovation, is now the ultimate cautionary tale. Between 2015 and 2022, the city's tech boom fueled unprecedented rent hikes. Average one-bedroom apartments soared past $4,000 per month, while luxury condos sold for millions, driven by a flood of tech workers, venture capital, and high-paying startups. Downtown streets were alive with ambition, glass towers pierced the sky, and San Francisco became the benchmark for high-cost urban living in the United States. But by 2025, the landscape has completely shifted. Rents are down 15% year over year, vacancy rates have shattered records, and luxury towers that once demanded $4,000 per month now sit empty at $3,000, or even lower with incentives. Remote work, hardened into permanence post-pandemic, caused a mass exodus of tech employees, while safety concerns, rising property taxes, and a growing homelessness crisis have pushed others toward cheaper alternatives like Sacramento or Austin. Restaurants, boutiques, and cultural hubs are closing, leaving ghost corridors where vibrant neighborhoods once thrived. For tenants, San Francisco now offers rare leverage. Negotiating lower rent, asking for months free, or securing upgraded amenities is no longer a dream. It's a reality. For investors and landlords, the lesson is stark. Over-reliance on high-income, single-industry tenants can lead to devastating losses. Those who purchased at the peak are now facing crippling maintenance costs, doubled property taxes, and plummeting cash flow, forcing many to sell at a loss or drastically adjust rental strategies. San Francisco's collapse is more than a local crisis. It signals the fragility of markets built on speculation and concentrated wealth. This city, which once defined the ceiling of U.S. rental prices, now demonstrates how quickly high-demand urban markets can unravel when external pressures collide. Layoffs, migration, rising costs, and social instability. It's a warning to both tenants and investors. Nothing in the housing market is invincible. San Francisco's fall is massive, but if you think the story ends here, brace yourself. At number 1, New York City, the empire of rent, is finally showing cracks too, and its decline could reshape the entire East Coast rental landscape. And finally, at number 1, New York. For generations, New York City's rental market was considered bulletproof. Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens had long resisted the ups and downs of the economy. Demand always returned. Luxury and mid-market rentals alike remained full, and investors saw the city as a fortress of stability. Between 2018 and 2023, rents in Manhattan averaged $3, $804, $500 for a one-bedroom, while Brooklyn and Queens surged past $3,000, fueled by a mix of tech, finance, media, and international buyers seeking prime real estate. But 2025 tells a different story. Manhattan rents have fallen 12% year-over-year, while Brooklyn and Queens are down 15%, leaving luxury towers and mid-tier buildings partially empty. Incentives like free rent for 2 to 3 months, waived security deposits, and even luxury upgrades have returned, tools unseen at this scale for over a decade. Corporate layoffs across finance, media, and tech have gutted the renter base that once guaranteed the city's resilience, and international buyers, previously the engine of Manhattan's market, are retreating amid rising global instability and stricter U.S. tax policies. Even the ultra-wealthy are recalibrating, reducing demand for luxury apartments on Billionaires Row. For renters, this is a historic opportunity to negotiate deals unimaginable a few years ago. For landlords and investors, New York is a wake-up call. Over-leveraging and relying on perpetual demand can lead to substantial losses. Those who purchased at the height of the market now face soaring refinancing rates, plunging rental income, and whispers of foreclosure for smaller landlords. It's no longer a market where renters always pay, power is shifting, and strategy matters more than ever. New York City's decline isn't just a local hiccup, it's emblematic of a national shift. When the empire of rent falters, it sends ripples across the U.S., influencing migration patterns, investment strategies, and housing affordability nationwide. This is the apex of the story. If the strongest, most resilient city can waver, every other market, from Miami to Boise, faces lessons about overbuilding, speculation, and the limits of perpetual demand. That was New York, the ultimate test of America's rental market. But to understand why the Sunbelt cities like Austin, Phoenix, and Miami are falling just as hard, you need to zoom out and see how overbuilding and runaway speculation created this nationwide collapse, a lesson that affects renters, investors, and cities alike.